a life that we can be ready to depart from, should circumstances demand or suggest, not so much demand, or maybe it is a demand. Like yesterday, in the morning I went to the dog park. There was an old woman who arrived there at the same time I did. She had an old dog. Her dog was named Sunshine. Her name was Helen. I'm sure I'll see both of them again. Turns out that Helen was responsible for that dog park. She was the one 2 decades back that petitioned the city to make it. I thanked her because it's a lovely dog park with pretty trees and nice places to sit. Helen and I, our conversation went deep, quickly. And twice, we spoke for 25, 30 minutes. Twice, she brought up her husband's suicide to me. So the second time I asked some questions. It was clearly something that she was, if not interested, willing at least to talk about. It was on her mind. Her husband had had Parkinson's disease, that had debilitated him. He had been an engineer and a ready mind. Worked on the Apollo project like my father did. Maybe even together. We were all living in the same place at the same time, coincidentally. Roughly the same age. So he'd been an active mind, professional. Both of them were, readers, because that's the thing that struck up the conversation. She'd noticed my book and asked me about what I was reading. So that's what started the conversation. I think that's what she latched onto, because she was a reader too. She told me that when she was a girl, her father would load her up with books from the library. And when they were living in Chicago, growing up in Chicago, and tell her she had to read everything. And she did, and it filled her mind. Anyway, her husband's disease had proceeded to the point that he realized that he was going down. After a full and rich life, the remaining time wasn't going to be lovely, pretty even, not even nice. It was going to be painful and debilitating, with the mind and the body simultaneously rioting against his well-being. So one day, while she was feeding him, giving him a spoonful of applesauce, his last meal, he closed his mouth as the spoon was presented, shook his head, and she pulled the spoon back. And he said, enough, no more. And she told me, it's just applesauce. He never ate again and starved himself to death. Now, the woman, Helen, she commented to me near the end of our conversation that perhaps her time is coming due. It was due to, although her mind is still very sharp, just something happened at the park. I can't remember what it was. By then it was just the two of us and our 3 dogs. I had my 2 dogs. She had hers, little Sunshine. Every time I said Sunshine's name, she would look at me. And she commented that her time is probably up to. I expect that that's what happens when, here's one of those fancy words, when we assuage the deep risk, when we give ourselves a life story, produce an identity early on, and a character that isn't canned or, shelf-bought. We're then more readily able to recognize when it's time to make a graceful exit, or when our time is nearly done, and to not lament it unduly, but to make our way off the stage, or to accept a graceful end, as both she and her husband seem to have done and are doing. That is one of the consequences of addressing that early risk. If she or her husband had not done so, if they had not made more of their lives than their home and their marriage and their careers, and you might wonder, well, what more is there? It's whatever you make beyond that. And for some people, there's nothing else, right? Some people have no interest in anything else. But if you wake into your early 20s and you want that something else, you sense and suspect that something else, and you don't look after it, don't try to find it, it might haunt you for the rest of your life. And when the day comes, and old age or middle age or young age, when the horror show arrives, the horror is here for a short period to take us out, or a medium or a long, drawn-out ending. We might not be willing or ready to go. Instead, we'll supplicate to some higher power for intervention, or cover our ears to try to drown out the pain, the reality, change ourselves upside down and backwards to become something we aren't, to make of ourselves into the man or woman of better understanding that we never tried to do earlier in life. It's too late. You just really can't do it at that point. You have to cut our losses, and we don't. We struggle going down, all the way down. I guess there is some grace in not fighting against and going quietly into the good night, right? As Helen's husband did. He simply said, enough. It's time for a graceful exit. Or Helen, who said, I think my time is almost done. That is the result of going deep and working hard early, and going after the deep risk, in addition to the surface level stuff. The risk of avoiding risk.